everybody. I'm so happy that you are connected to my another episode of Uniquely Designed, where I get an opportunity to talk to amazing people. I am biased at all times. Every introduction is always biased because I know such amazing people. I'm so sorry you might not know them, but that is my job to introduce you to the amazing people that I know. I am better because of the relationships that I have. And today, this particular person is not anyone that I had to look up any information on, even though I did just for the sake of conversation and to be respectful to her studies and how affluent she is in so many different areas. But she is indeed a real friend of mine. And I'm so happy to have a conversation today with the doctor, the voice doctor, Dr. Lori Celeste Hicks. Welcome to the Uniquely Designed podcast.
Hi, Pastor. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm
It's so
so
good to
happy
see
that you're
you
here.
again. Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm thrilled. I'm so happy. First of all, I'm happy because when you just, responded and said, Pastor, you knew me before that was even there. So the BP, the before pastor days.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Whatever you
all of
want me to say, I won't say. Whatever is
I
confidential.
mean, I'm an open book. I mean, most of the stuff is I've probably done a video about it already. Whatever
I
it
know,
is,
right? I know, right?
it's good for you to control your own narratives.
Testimony, testify.
I've
Mm-hmm.
told my own stories from 1998. Um, and I remember, and I've said this, I remember one time I was talking to Angie about this.
Mm-hmm.
There was something about that era of Kentucky State, as well as I think even music, that was so exciting and
Mm-hmm.
so rich. You were at that time the very first. I don't know if you ever knew this. You were the very first female composer that I knew that did and arranged music the way you did. I had never experienced that ever before until I met you in One Accord.
Well, I am honored. I am honored. And I was just doing what I did. I didn't know none the
Your
wiser.
your arrangements and what you used to do, and you still are doing the same thing, but your arrangements and how you would hear things and arrange things and put it together when we used to go concert choir tours and stuff. And I mean, no disrespect, but like it was like the Clark sisters. What it was just like
Oh,
y'all had such richness. I mean, they
I
did
know.
what they did as far as legacy. I don't know. I love Twinkie
Sacrilege,
but I
darling.
love all of that. But I'm saying, don't y'all cut me off because
I know.
I know, I love.
We all love the Clock Sisters. Yes.
We love them. I love them. They are in a class on their own. I don't cancel me, please don't. But I remember loving as a teenager, like Take Six. I
Mhm.
loved Take Six, and I never to make it make more sense for those of you all who try to cancel me. I love Take Six because I heard them at that time. We had something called CDs and boom boxes, way back then at that time. And you had CD disc changers and stuff in your car a long time ago. And I would listen to that, but I never knew other human beings
Mm.
that could duplicate even a close resemblance to that type of sound. And
Mm.
you were able to take women or anybody that I mean, you used to work with us guys, and we even sang. I remember when we were trying to sing "A Day Has Come and It Won't Be Long, I fly away to my
My
home."
home. You have an insane memory.
You worked us. When I tell you, you were Maddie Moss Clark to us. You worked us. And I was just like, who is she? But it gave me an appreciation for diversity. So I said that as an introduction to say, where did you gain that type of love for diversity of music, sound, technique? I mean, I know, Detroit, of course, but
Mm.
where did that come from in you?
Yeah, well, I would have to say a lot of it started with the Clark sisters because they, when I was very young, they were right there in Detroit, so we could hear them at the church. Of course, I can't remember the name of the church, but the Winans, their use of harmony. But when I fell in love with Take Six and So Much to Say, that's what changed me. That's where I would sit there with the cassette, because that was even before CDs for real. I would sit there with the cassette and picking out all the parts, and putting them all together, see what I could hear, and then I started
I feel
arranging.
like we have to introduce like cassettes to people like this generation, like cassettes, like you had to push
I'm
pause,
familiar.
rewind.
Hmm. Hmm.
You were like,
Hmm.
what?
Especially if you were trying to make there, I had a multi-voice recorder, so if you were trying to put it all together, like you had to have a special machine to do that, and that was later on. But yeah, with Take Six, and I'd have to say Nina Scott opened me up musically. That was my high school director with Renaissance High School, and she opened me up musically because all I wanted to do before that was R&B and gospel. So I was already classically trained. I just didn't want to be. So, I had that background, but that I didn't implement it right away. And she opened me up with the Bach. We would do motet. We would do all these things with this polyphony, harmony. We would do Mozart. We would do all the classics in addition to Moses Hogan. And then when I started to hear Moses Hogan spirituals, I'm like, oh, okay, that's the kind of music I want to be writing. So in high school, I really started to develop my compositional voice and what devices that really spoke to me and that I could really use. And then the cherry on top was a female group called Special Gift. And I don't know if you remember, we used to sing, "Ooh, we want to praise you." Ooh, can't find where that was. Special Gift, and the composer of that was Kayla Parker, and may she rest. But when I discovered them, in addition to Take Six and the classical training that I already had, I just started putting all of that together. I would pick out all the parts, write it down by hand. By hand. That was back when before the all the programs did it for you. And thankfully, I had guinea pigs to work on with Accord, which was the group we were called in high school before we went to college and became One Accord. So I had guinea pigs. I had amazing musicians to work with, to write for. And it was a blessing to really be able to develop that before I even set foot on K State's campus.
Do you feel that even in that time, like sometimes when I hear some of Motown legends talking about how Diana Ross was down the hall or Smokey Robinson was around the corner, and all these that type of exposure lended itself to you always raising your bar of musical excellence because you are exposed to that. Do you believe that that type of, maybe I've gotten too far in the interview already, but do you believe that that type of exposure and seeing that type of, you said the Wine and Clark sisters, I mean, there was, Fred Hammond was there. I mean, there was a lot of
Right.
things that were going on
And
at that time.
Motown. I should have
Motown,
mentioned
yeah,
Motown as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
all of that. Do you
Yeah.
think that, do we still see that type of exposure now that is causing people to even aspire to that type of greatness? Because I can't imagine. I mean, I'm from Kentucky. I'm not saying we didn't have musical excellence. I'm not saying that, but we had, kind of bluegrass and honky tonks and some other things. We
Mhm.
wonderful music, but I can't imagine being in the heart of Motown, the gospel artists that have come out of there,
And
and
breathing.
not I mean, you're just talking about, you can just go, like, even the gospel artists, you can just go to their churches. I mean, like,
Yeah.
that was just every Sunday thing. Like, a concert was like Vanessa Bell Armstrong, all that was just there, just
Yes.
anybody's church, any Sunday. It wasn't, now you pay tickets for that, but then you just like, no, I go to the church. It's my every Sunday. So then the choir was like that. Then the musicians were like
Mhm.
that because you had to play behind these
Mhm.
people. Do you believe that because I know that shape helped to shape you, but do you think that we have a lot of that now?
No, not that I know of. I haven't been involved on that level in a long time. And then my church was a big contributor to that as well. Not so much, it was, we weren't functioning with the same type, but we had some really good musicians. But they allowed me to perform, they allowed me to explore. I think our group came there several times to perform. So the church that we're involved in, they're not doing music the same way. They're not developing. I don't think they're developing young musicians and mentoring musicians the same way. And then we don't have music in the schools the same way. So what we were just exposed to on a daily basis, and we would be in the choir room, even if we weren't practicing anything, we were listening to other things, listening to other choirs, listening to groups that came out. Have you heard this group? Have you heard that? So we were always listening. We were always being poured into and pouring into each other and sharpening our skills. We didn't realize that's what we were doing at the time. We just, that's what we all loved and that's what we were interested in. But and to even have Stacy Gibbs, like he would come and just be in our rehearsal and he wrote music for our group. So we had amazing influences, and it was just right there. So I don't think we're breeding just in general artists the way that we were at that time, and the music is not prevalent in the schools like it was. And I don't think students are, they feel the freedom to explore and to figure out who they are as an artist, or what their voice is like, and what they like to write, what they like to listen to, and even what they like to perform. So I definitely think it's very different. The musicians that we're listening to, even on the radio, we had Jodeci, we had SWV, we had all these groups, and those were two of my favorite groups. I know there's a ton of them, but
And a lot
there
of
were
them came out of
groups.
church. They came out of church too.
Yeah, there were groups left and right. Everybody was harmonizing, Boys to Men, and of course New Edition. Everybody was harmonizing, and you got to the point, like, see how many harmonies you could add to that, and let's see how many parts you could maintain. So it is unfortunate, but I think recognizing it, having these conversations, and getting back to the church, getting back to the music, all the styles of music, not excluding what they're doing now, but what the traditions are, and putting it together, and then where we can take it in the future. I think if we build up music in the church, that black church conservatory I talk about all the time, then we could really develop, fill the void that our children are missing in their schools.
Do you feel that there is a slow coming back to those types of things, a harmony? Because I'm noticing, even if people, even, you know, I say even younger generations who might not have grown up with it, I'm starting to see, it seems to be, an interest in that. Like, I'm really interested in knowing that. And now you see people like the genius, like Jacob Collier,
Jacob Collins is the
um,
first person I
who
thought of. Yep.
is exploring, you know, and doing different things. You see, was it Jason Fredericks is now starting his, you know, Jason Fredericks, they're starting to travel and do workshops and things about, I think he was with the aliens, I think, or something like that.
Oh, you
You
talking
know,
Jason Max Ferdinand?
yeah, I don't know what
Yep.
I just called him. See,
That's
you know
okay.
how
That's
we
all
call
right.
the people,
That's all right.
you know, we be calling people
Yes, we're
names.
getting,
So I'm
I
so
do think
sorry.
we're getting back to that. No, that's fine. I do think music is starting to, and there's nothing new under the sun anyway. I mean, these harmonies were actually happening back in, the 1800s, 1900s. They were just happening in the orchestra. They were exploring different sounds and the way they stack pitches and harmonies the whole time, the entire time. So motets, vocal motets back in the day in the 1600s were doing the same kinds of things. So there really is nothing new under the sun, and I do believe that it is circling back. And more, there's a young lady, Carrie Carney, I think her name is. She does a lot of her own promotions. She does videos, and she's doing 6-part harmony for of her own arrangements of popular songs. So I do think we're starting to hear that more and more, and I think it's going to start to infiltrate the popular artists and the people that are putting music out.
So take that your upbringing and what you experienced, and now bring that to Kentucky State and how you um, was there no other path for you than music when you came to that? Like, I'm not saying you were like, was it like this is a straight path towards music, or how did that
Nah,
even come to?
nah. I thought, well, my parents, may they rest, they wanted me to be able to make money. So they encouraged me not to go into music. So when I was getting ready to graduate high school, my plan was to go to be an accountant.
Really?
And yes, I was
I
either
did
going
not
to
know that.
business school or something. And Nina Scott, we were on tour. I mean, this is my senior year. We were on tour, and she was like, "What is this? You're saying you're going into accounting?" I said, "Well, I want to make a living when I get a job. I want to be able to get a job and make a living." She was like, "Well, do you think I don't make a good living?" She was like, "I make about 70,000 a year." I was like, "Oh, for real?" That's okay. I think I could do that. So she talked me into actually following my heart and doing what I was gifted to do and not worrying about the monetary part of it. So from there, that's when there was no other path. It was like, okay, once I realized I can make a decent living, still working on it, but I can make a decent living and be happy and pursue the things that I love, then, that's all I wanted to do after that. And it still evolved because I didn't start off at Kentucky State wanting to be an opera singer, of course. I just wanted to compose, but there was no composition degree. So, all right, I'll do music ed. I'll do voice and piano music ed. And it evolved when I went into graduate school. I didn't want to do vocal performance. They talked me into it. So I did it then. And then I went on and got my doctorate. And then I was like, oh, okay, I do like singing this music. I do like opera. But that still was only one part of who I was musically. And I explored that for a long time and built, my teaching career and singing career off of that. But I started getting back into my composition, and I'm gonna say this story real quick. After K State, when I did my master's, I was a composition major at Bowling Green, and they really didn't appreciate the kind of music that I wanted to write. So I felt less than. I felt like my music wasn't enough, and I stopped writing for a long time because I was just writing vocal music. I wrote for the groups that I loved. I wrote the kinds of spiritual arrangements and these other things. So it took me a long time to get back to appreciating my own gifts, my own ear, what I heard, and that there are people out there that still love and appreciate this kind of composition, this kind of music. And actually just finished a commission a few weeks ago for a female ensemble. So I'm definitely getting back into it. And then I just started writing just for me. Just something would come to me, and I just started writing, whether I had a group to write for or not. And that was another thing that kind of kept me from doing it. So I forgot the original question, but but I think I'm
You're in
done.
the same, you're in the path in vein. The question was it a straight path towards music?
Oh,
And the answer was no,
no,
that it
it
wasn't.
wasn't.
You know, do you think that that's how, I mean, the providence of God, that everything, though reluctant, was still guiding you through the entire path?
Yes, my best friend says there's nothing wasted in God's economy. and everything, even things that I thought I was going to go do. I was disappointed that I couldn't get a degree in composition. I was disappointed that I didn't get into U of M for my master's. I was disappointed. I had disappointments along the way. But I look back and I saw how it steered me into the direction I needed to go. And there were probably missteps. I probably, went around the bend a couple times more than I needed to. But I saw the influence. I saw the people that I was put in touch with, the teachers that I had along the way. I had amazing faculty and amazing teachers and mentors that poured into me. Moses Hogan would have been one of them if I had pursued that. So I'm blessed at how things. I
Do you
appreciate.
remember? Do you remember when we went to his house?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Because he told me to send him some music. He knew the song that I had arranged back then, the Ride On King Jesus, that I won the competition with, and he had heard about it. And I'm just sitting there like, huh? You want my music? So I, and I was, fear kept me from sending him music. And then next thing we knew, he was gone. So, that did teach me not to allow any opportunity. Someone said, send me some music, write me a song. I'm usually on it. Sometimes my schedule is too full, but I did learn from that. But to answer your question, yes, I can look back and see how those twists and turns and disappointments guided me along this way. So now I have all these tools in my toolkit, all these things to borrow from and to put into my music, to put into my teaching, into my performance. And I am who I am, and I'm embarking in this new chapter because of everything that I've seen along the way, even especially the disappointments. And it's like I think I can do something about that. I think I can help fill that void and be and pay it forward the way people pour it into me.
What did you learn? What would you say the most valuable lesson you learned from? I know you're the inevitable Nina Scott. I know that. We love her. I loved her. I remember first time I heard Renaissance High School. I said, "Oh, she's so amazing." But Dr. Carl Smith, concert choir, that experience, of course, Mr. Andrew Smith, as well as vocal teacher and stuff. How was that? How did that continue to shape you? That experience.
Gosh, I think there it taught me to always to stay ready. We pretty much had to stay ready. We'd get off the bus and go right into performance. And the students that I'm working with now would could never dream of having to do anything like that. People were composers and producers were coming up to us, and there were opportunities left and right. Even with Mr. Smith, all the people that he knew in the industry that he could introduce us to. And it taught me to stay ready, pivot when I needed to, and not dumb down what I have to offer because we had a lot to offer, and people saw that. So just staying ready, always being professional, always, as soon as you, even on the bus, we had to conduct ourselves professionally when some people weren't looking. But I'm so glad we did not have social media, Mario.
Listen,
I
I
am so
don't. I
glad.
I think about it all the time. I said I don't know what vortex I would have died in that
I
time, in
am
that era.
so glad.
When you're developing, finding yourself, and things that you really need to just be a memory and not a real, and not
Yeah,
a. You just
yeah.
needed to stay right where that is.
I am so glad. We all
All
telling on
those
ourselves,
those
but
tour
Lord,
bus trips and those. Yeah,
I am
yeah,
so glad. But
yeah.
we had to stay ready. Sometimes we had to travel in our gowns, and
I
we
wanted
better
to
not
talk
look
about
bad.
that. I wanted to hinge on that because I had said, I think even when I was talking to Dr. Smith one time before, his standard of excellence has guided so much of how I view the world, not just
Hmm.
music, But I remember those, like you talk about traveling in gowns and whatever we did, pajamas and
Hmm.
stuff. I remember getting to gas stations and stuff at 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, or whatever, and people would be complaining that they had to take rollers out of their hair, that they had to take their scarves off, or whatever, because the doctor was like, "You ain't getting off here yet."
And
No,
we
you could
roll up.
not. You
Mm-mm.
had to
And
take
now
that off.
they go to school in
That's
bonnets.
what I'm saying. Like now, when I see, I remember I saw one of my fraternity brothers somewhere. There was a um, his probate show, and they were all standing around, and one of the guys, younger guys, younger brothers, he had on a wave cap, out there at the probate, and I just couldn't take it. And I went up to him. I said, "Brother, we don't do that. We don't do it." He said, I said, "I'm trying to keep my hair." I said, "Child, it is 11 o'clock at night. Your hair is fine, and it's dark. Ain't nobody
Right.
looking at your hair." But those
Right.
are a lot of different things from Dr. Smith that we just could not go out looking like that because there was a
Hmm.
point of respect. You were already black,
Hmm.
and people are already looking at you, so
Hmm.
have some type of respect. Did you already have that type of upbringing mentality before Kentucky
Nina
State?
Scott. And
Yeah.
my mama didn't play that either.
Oh, of course.
My mama didn't play that. We always looked good when we left the house. But Nina Scott had trained us up in the same way. Of course, we didn't wear pajamas. And Renaissance High School had that standard. You don't come to school in pajamas. We were training you to be professionals. So yeah, we had that in that high school setting. I had it at home. I had it with Nina Scott, and then it was just reinforced with Carl Henry. And there would be times that Dr. Smith would be like, run a car and get up there and sing. We didn't know, we weren't on program. We had to stay
No,
ready. Stay ready, or I need you to arrange me I mean, just and have it to me by tomorrow. Just arranging stuff at the last minute. I mean, you had to stay ready, and you had to think a couple of steps ahead. I'm not a chess player, but if I would, that would be that kind of mindset. Like I have to anticipate, especially as I'm going out now. I have to anticipate the kind of environment I'm walking into, the kind of people that I'm going to converse with or do business with. You have to anticipate those things and stay ready.
yeah. Well, I want to, even with Dr. Smith, I think that not that you are the re-embodiment of the era, but now you have taken even some of those things that you have grown up with, what we started with, as far as the Winans, the Clark sisters, all those type of things, that talking back to the gospel root. Now you've taken all of your training that you have gained over the years and all the different things you said you have in your toolbox, and now you are, in some regard, answering a need that's in the local church communities, as well as those people that are singing. Like because like we didn't have people that would come into choir rehearsals or to whatever and talk about breathing techniques and pitch and how to support and how to still sing the same music but
Mm-hmm.
sing it with excellence, because a lot of times, it's even when it comes to opera or whatever, a lot of times you were taught not to sing gospel, taught not,
Exactly.
don't sing that. Like, you leave that, you abandon
Yep.
it. We sing
Yep.
spirituals, we don't sing gospel anymore.
Yep.
But you're taking an approach, on your TikTok that has blown up, and your other platforms, that you are saying, all right, here's a warm up, and your warm up is not I, E, E, O, U. It might be, just want to praise you, change keys 5 times, and we're just going to do that on the breath. That's all we're going to do. This all on the breath. Don't breathe right here. We're going to keep doing. Let's take it. Now you do it. And I was just like, this is wonderful, for those people who don't, I'm saying that to say, for people who desire to sing in excellence and don't have to abandon their love for God and gospel music and church music and still be able to do it with excellence. I think that is genius. That
Oh,
is how you have taken that skill set and not abandoned. And I'm not saying that people abandon their faith. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm
Well,
saying
I
that
did.
well,
I actually did. I do a lecture called From the Black Church to the Opera Stage. And I talk about how my teachers say, you can't sing. You can't sing that stuff. Quit singing that gospel music. And remember, I was singing bass in the group. So, all that stuff. So when I really embraced opera and my training, I stopped going to church. I couldn't go to church and not sing the way I, was used to singing, and the way I grew up singing. So I stopped going to church. I stopped listening because if I listen to a gospel song, I'm going to want to sing it and sing it like that. I'm not going to, we would play around and I classicalize some gospel songs or whatnot here and there, but I did. Pretty much kind of walked away from that. I was going through some other things personally, and it eventually I came back to God. But I was told, no, you cannot sing that. But it wasn't until I got called to sing at Carnegie Hall. And this was after my doctorate. I was already teaching, and anybody called me to sing at a church or to sing something gospel. Oh no, I don't sing gospel. No, I don't do that. And then Carnegie Hall called, and they wanted me to sing gospel. And it's called a gospel mass, Robert Ray gospel mass, and no microphone, full orchestra, 90 voice choir, but they wanted the style. But without my training, I would not have been able to cut through all that with no microphone. And then without my upbringing, I wouldn't have been able to do the style. So it was after and then I was teaching students who were gospels. They were ministers of music at their church, and they would come. They were voice majors, and I'm like, no, we have to sing it like this. And they're like, Dr. Hicks, every Sunday I'm leading my church. What do you want me to do? And I had to shift and not regurgitate the same things I was told. I said, okay, let me hear what you're doing on Sunday. So then I started working with my students on what they were singing, how they were singing, and I saw the need then, and that's what shifted my teaching style into, okay, what is it you need, and how can I help lay a foundation to help you pursue what it is you want to pursue. That's what college is supposed to be. We're supposed to be training them to pursue the careers that they desire, not if you are going to be a singer, you have to sing like this. It doesn't make any sense. Business has caters to all the different fields, the different areas of business. There's a foundational business, and then there's all these different ways of doing business. Medicine, you have a specialty in medicine. You learn the body, you learn the foundations of how the body works and all of that, and then you pick a specialty. I see singing and music as the same way. There's a foundation, rhythm, pitch, structure, and of course with the voice, breathing, placement, all of that. And then you pick a specialty. What's wrong with that? And why are we training that there is only one specialty that matters? And that is it's taking people away from the study of music and intimidates people about the studying of technique and all of that. So I started doing a workshop with the Hampton Ministers Conference, and I can't remember what year it was. It was before I had Daniel, so I guess 2014. And they asked me to do advanced singing techniques, and that's what really started to help me hone and shape my approach. How I help to lay that foundation, how I teach breath support and placement and all of that. And then when I started doing the warm-ups, I was just bored. And I was bored with the warm-ups that I had. I still had students who were singing gospel, who were doing this and that and the other. And I'm like, okay, well, let's just do some ABCs, gospelize it. And I would, in their voice lessons, the way I played the warm-up, instead of, it would be, or dun, 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 dun. I can't do it right now, but it would be more of a beat to it. Dun, 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 and we would put a beat to it, and then we go to their German song, and we put a beat to it. We put a flow to it. So I was incorporating all of that in my teaching, and then I just started to hone it and develop it, because I did see a need, and I saw a need within myself, and then it just kind of took off from there.
Do you feel like that was once again another thing that you reluctantly did and wound up landing in a space that fit you?
Yeah, I felt really silly. I felt like it wouldn't be respected in my classical community and amongst faculty. And then I realized, well, I'm not doing it for them anyway. I'm doing it for the people who don't have any warm ups to use, who are also bored. And then I started getting responses from a lot more classical folk like, oh, these are, I really like these warm ups. They weren't singing gospel, they were singing classical, but we had the same Marchese warm ups, we had the same vocalises, we had the same things that we studied with. And, I did see that it filled a need across the board, not just for gospel singers, R&B singers, studio artists, all these other kinds of singers. And the way when I go back and watch those early videos, I laugh at myself. I mean, literally, I would press play with the big old speaker in the background, and I'm like, come on, y'all. And I started doing it also for myself because I started working at Dr. Smith's church, the First Christian Church. And I hadn't had a church job in I couldn't remember how long. So now I've got to get up and be ready to sing and ready to conduct at 8 something in the morning. Well, church started at 10, but it took me a while to warm up. So I literally started doing them for myself. And that has been the most productive. I wasn't doing it to get followers. I wasn't even checking for likes back then. So that part, I really was doing it for myself to get myself ready, and I'm gonna have fun. Y'all might as well warm up with me. And so it's evolved, it's developed from there. I love, love, love working with hoop triggers. I still don't get paid to say that, but I just love the access. I love the creativity. I love what C Dub has been able to do in that app. I hope he's developing more, but just having access to something like that allowed me to be creative. And I'm listening to the new tracks he comes out, and I'm like, oh, what song could go with that? Oh, what can I put with that? Or what vocalise can I put with that? So it allowed me to think outside the box and be creative as well. Because if I had to make my own tracks, you heard me playing. It would not be as good. It would not. So I'm
Have
grateful.
you had people? Because I've seen, even some of your. I don't know if you do them as much anymore, but when you used to have like singers could come on and basically sing anything, and then you critique them. Um, have you had people or stories of people that you have seen evolve just using your techniques and things, and that you have now looked and said, I was there for them. Like if they wouldn't have had that, they would not have known maybe that song was good for you. It's just not in the right key, or it's not, that might not be for you, or don't, like for instance, it's good. I remember there was a guy in, used to be over gospel ensemble at that time. His name was, you know him, but Kelly Daniels, and he's
Oh yeah.
passed away now. And there was a song he gave me. I don't remember what year that was, and because I was so fascinated with everybody doing runs at that time, I was trying to do all of it. I remember someone telling me I was a part of the BRC, and I was like, "What's the BRC?" They're talking about the
Rock
broke.
Club! Rock Run Club! Oh,
At that
okay.
time. So yeah, these
Uncle
students couldn't
Al.
hear that. They couldn't hear that now. They would start crying if somebody told them something like that now. But we had some very very bold people to tell you that it kept you humble. It kept you humble. And so I was singing, and he told me, he said, you're doing too many runs. It doesn't need that. It's not required. Just keep it
Mhm,
simple. It's a churchy
mhm.
song. Just keep it whatever. So I feel like you are for now what we have seen teachers and faculty, and at that time our peers that were saying to us like, hey, chill out, you got a good voice but you're all over the place, and you need people that can be able to say, hey, your voice is so pure, you don't need all that type of stuff, just get
Yeah.
in your lane. How has that been for you, hearing the testimonies and stories of people that you've been able to help with that?
It's been reaffirming because I was doing those classes a lot, especially when the pandemic, we were still in the pandemic. I've since kind of slowed down because it takes a lot out of me. And it's just trying to figure out how to scale your business, how to, put your, to invest your time into something and get a return on that investment. But being able to hear the immediate change, first of all, I'm like, girl, you good, you good, you good. You know something, you know a little something. But it is reaffirming that I'm doing it out of love, and I'm doing it in an encouraging way, that I am really intentional about not deterring a singer, even if they are at the very very beginner level. I'm never telling anyone maybe you shouldn't be singing, but I'm always saying, singing is is a skill that needs to be developed. Because you would, people would
I don't
text
know
me
why
and be
that's
like,
so
how are
funny
you
to me.
keeping a straight face?
I would
And
wonder sometimes. I would like, everyone is called to a different group of people. That is not my calling, because I could not hide that expression. I
but
just couldn't
I
do it.
appreciate the love that each individual has for singing. I appreciate that they're there because obviously they love to sing, whether they're good at it or not, and they want to be able to do it better. They want some tips on how to grow. So I appreciate that, and I'm always meeting people where they are. So if you want to learn to do runs, okay, let's start off doing some scales and learn to do scales quickly, and then you start to emulate the things, the runs and riffs that you hear others do. But sometimes I don't recommend you start off with that. Or if there's somebody that come out the room womb running, they running all over the place. Okay, let's establish what is the intent of what. Why are you using the run? What's your why? And is the message, are you enhancing the message with the run that you're using? Or are you confusing the message? Amazing grace. Why is amazing? Why is that syllable so important? Whatever, however you're using the run, are you using it in a way that, again, is going to enhance the message? And are you using it in a way to reach your audience more? Or do you just want to be on display? So,
Yeah.
getting down to the core of those things, I am blessed. In my vocal wisdom program, I've been able to just help lay foundations for church singers, and thinking about how they're using their voice, thinking about how they're approaching the music that they're singing week after week, thinking about how they're preparing themselves and how they're resting themselves after the fact. So I have more of an approach of a holistic approach in that program, but not just I'm teaching you runs, or I'm teaching you how to squall, or I'm not doing those things. I'm teaching you how to think as an artist, how to think as a professional singer, and preserve your gift, and think about the music that you're delivering in a way that is going to enhance the message and not take away from it.
I think that that is so rich, because one of the greatest, I don't even want to say fear, I don't say that, but things that I was always concerned about as it relates to making sure that we're approaching vocal health right is anytime I think about Whitney Houston and how in the latter part of her years she was not able to sing her own music.
Yep.
I think of how that torture within yourself, knowing that you didn't handle your gift right, you didn't handle your voice right. Now
And a
you're not able to
constant
even,
reminder of what you
yeah.
used to be able to do. A constant reminder. Go ahead,
I
sir.
think that that is no. I just think that it's the saddest thing that we could ever do as it relates to those of us who do sing or do whatever it is. The area, anybody who's watching or listening, whatever your gift is, that we don't. The danger of not stewarding what you have well,
Yeah.
and not taking ownership. So I think that that's why I do think what you're doing is genius, because there are a lot of people who think, because I grew up where the more you hollered, the more anointed you were.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you had a good holler, child, they can sing, and you listen to them, and they just be hollering, and it'd be like a horse holler, and you'd
Mm-hmm.
be like, I don't know how many years you're gonna be able to do that, and
Mm-hmm.
then they get older. I mean, even now at my age, I hear some people that that when I was younger, I used to think that they could just sing. And now I hear them now, and they're like baritones, basses who used to be like first sopranos, and they
Yeah.
now like Amazing Grace. I'm like,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
happened, to their voice because they didn't know how to preserve it or to take care of it or to
Yeah.
like you do vocal leads, warming up, all those different things. So what you do is so necessary to the preservation. I mean, it's gospel music. It's the good news. What happens when you can't even use your voice to tell the good news anymore?
Yeah, and that's not what your gift. I use the analogy, if I've been given a china doll and I have this precious doll, and then I take it and I start banging it up against the wall. I'm not taking good care of this gift, and like, oh, I can do what I want to. It's my doll, I'm supposed to. But what we have been given in the voice is so much more delicate than we realize, and so precious. And being able, just like with any athlete, there's going to be wear and tear. Especially if you use it at a high rate, but being able to put methods in place that will preserve it as long as it can, understanding how the voice functions, so that when you do the things that you want to do, you know what to feel for, you know what to listen out for, and what to be mindful of, so that you are not running the risk of injuring yourself. I'm sorry, singing yourself hoarse, I do not believe is ordained by God. I'm sorry. I don't care who you are. I really don't. And even as a classical singer, there are many opera singers who have had vocal injuries as well. So just because you're classically trained, I've had a vocal injury. Just because you're classically trained doesn't mean you're exempt, or you know all the ways you're exempt from any type of injury or the wear and tear that comes from just singing all the time. So being mindful of when you're not feeling your best and how to adjust, being mindful of when to just say no and when to just shut up, when to be quiet and rest your voice. Because without that, how are you going to get God's message across? The Lord said for me to tell you. I don't believe that that's what God intended. So I know that it is a calling of mine. It's not just a passion, but a calling of mine to be able to help gospels, help all singers do what they love to do what they're anointed to do what they're called to do, and do it as long as they possibly can,
I want to
and do it
take
with confidence. Go ahead.
I wanted to take a different angle as well before we wrap up because we could obviously talk for the next two
Oh
hours.
my gosh.
But didn't it say, see, it went by so fast?
Go
To
ahead.
think of how,
Extended version, part two.
yes, to think of those who are watching or listening, if you're listening to audio or you're just watching on YouTube, who are not singers but are speakers, to know that vocalizing, breath support and all this stuff is still applicable to those different areas. Now let's take that even further for those in the African American experience who are, sometimes go into the celebration of their at the ending of their message, type of thing, that they don't consider themselves singers, but the organ comes in, the full band comes in, all the type of stuff, and they doing whatever they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that, about how those same tools that you're doing for singers
Yes.
applies to that as well.
Well, it's still the voice. I work with the voice. So the voice functions off of air, out of thought first, and off of the air. And the air that we provide will either help or hinder the sound we're trying to make. So if we want to be able to project our voices, if we want to be able to use our voices for extended amount of time, if we want to, and it depends on aesthetically the sound or the timbre that you're going after. Some people love that raspy sound, and you might have a rasp to your sound and not end up losing your voice. So, it just kind of depends on the individual, but generally, a rasp in the sound indicates that there's something amiss. But being able to understand how the breath works, how to work the breath, how to project your sound so that you're not putting strain on these two little bands. The vocal cords are like two little rubber bands. So they can be flexible, they can be pliable, but how the pressure that we put on them can cause them to rupture and break and cause nodules, nodes, and all those kinds of things. And if we are not mindful of that, you can get to a point where you can't ever use your voice again. There are people who have completely lost their voices, and they were warned, whether that they took the warning, whether or not they did the necessary steps. I know people who have had surgery on their voice and then went right back to doing they didn't do the therapy after, and went right back to doing what they were doing before, and it's only a matter of time before they lost their voice again and had to have another surgery, or they lost it completely. So I believe that if we are, like you said, good stewards over our voice, however we're using it, teachers have to use their voices all the time. Or if you use your voice for your business, how the health of your voice is paramount. Because without it, how are you going to do business? Period. And just in our what we're talking about specifically is, how are you going to minister? How are you going to help heal if your voice itself needs healing? So we just have to I'll keep preaching it. I'm glad to know the more I get out there, I'm not the only one preaching. I've found a little community of vocal coaches who are we're all preaching the same message, and we've started to become very supportive of each other, and it is affirming to know that there's enough speakers and singers out there for all of us, and we're not fighting each other over clientele. We're not fighting each other over who's saying it better, and we're all able to support each other. I recommend other podcasters, other videos, other warm-ups for my clients as well. You don't have to do my warm-ups, you don't have to do my program, but you need to study to show yourself approved. You need to seek after ways and methods that are going to work for you, that allow you to build the skill you need to preserve your gift. That's it. If as a preacher, the skill that you're building is you're studying the study of the word. If you are not constantly taking in the word and analyzing the word and see how it applies to all these different situations, how can you be effective as a minister, whether you have a voice or not? If you don't have an understanding of what you've been gifted to minister with, or to minister, then you're cutting yourself off at the beginning. You're cutting off the anointing as well. So for speakers, preachers, anyone who is using their voice, take the time to study how the voice works, how your voice works, how you sound in different situations, how you sound in the morning. Is that a good time for you to start speaking and singing? Or do you need to take gigs at night? Or you need to do your sermons at night? Or if you are asked to do your sermon in the morning or sing in the morning, how early do you need to get up so that you sound like something, and that you're not worried about, oh, is my voice going to cut out on me? Am I going to be able to even get any sound out? So take the time to get to know your voice, the highs, the lows, everything in between, where the breaks of your voice lie, your range. And then how to use your breath. How are you breathing? How are you sitting? How are you standing? How is your posture? All of these things, because our bodies are our instruments. I don't know if you've ever heard that before. I know I've said it to you, but because our bodies are our instrument, how the things we put into our bodies and how we hold our bodies up, how we use our bodies, are going to affect the instrument, which is the voice. So if you're out of shape, and you're struggling to go up a flight of stairs, then singing through or speaking for long periods of time and singing for long periods of time is probably going to be an issue for you. So just how we use our bodies and what we're putting in our bodies is going to make a very big difference in the health of our voices. All that to say, I'm done. I preached my sermon.
The doors of the vocal church are open currently. If you would like to bring your voice, bring it up right now. Just lift it up. I appreciate all this information that you've sent, so much so that I wanted you all to get just a little bit of it free. But that is the end of our free session. I want you to be better. So I want you to tell the people how they can find you, how they can book you, how they can get private coaching, how you can come into their organizations or churches or otherwise and be able to give them all of these tools that you just gave away for free.
Amen. Well, visit lchstudios.com if you're interested in private lessons. I do strategy sessions, so you could sign up for a strategy session, and then I'll hear you and make an assessment, and then we can go from there. I still do the classes, Dr. Lori Fix My Voice. And I do that. I haven't done one in a little while. I took a little break and just I needed a break. So those will probably start back up in July. So I still do Dr. Lori Fix My Voice, which is group coaching. So if you're not able to do the private coaching, you are welcome to the classes. I do still have my vocal boot camp, which is a self-paced program. You can get these tools in the video and the warm-ups there, or you can sign up for one of my boot camp classes, which will start up in July as well. Gosh, I still have my vocal wisdom program. I'll do another cycle of that. And you can do my warm ups and things on my TikTok, Dr. Lori Hicks, or my Instagram, Dr. Lori Hicks, or my YouTube, which is LCH Studios. Is that all of them? I think that's
I
all of
think
them.
I think you covered all of it. But
I
I
think so. Oh,
I
and if you're a church that's interested in workshops and things like that, just send me a message on any of the platforms. I answer my DMs myself. Maybe one day I'll get to the point where I have a whole team of folk that can answer for me. But I answer my DMs as well as my email, so you can send me a message on lchstudios.com as well.
Well, I want to say again, I've said it before privately, said it publicly as well, that I appreciate what you're doing. I think it's very, very important to not just churches, organizations, but to everybody, to our vocal health as a unit, as a whole. So I'm grateful. I will tell you all, those of you who are bold enough and audacious enough to reach out to her, um, um, Joe Clark was her dad. So
That
I'll just say it. I'll just say
And it's all in love.
it
It's
is in
all
love.
in love, and
She
I'm
will
somewhat
push
of a
you.
drill sergeant.
She will
Yes.
push you and get it out of you. If there's anything in you, she will find it and get it out of you. I still owe her sessions that I'm supposed to be in myself. But she pushed my voice to a point that I did not even know that I was supposed to. I did not think. I remember telling her I was not supposed to be able to sing that song. I sing that particular
Hi.
note. And she said, "Says who? Who told you you can't?" I mean, I was just like, "Do it again." I was like, "Oh,
And you did
hold on."
about 4 times in a row too. I said, mm-hmm.
So, if you want to have your best self, find out your best self, because ultimately, you taking care of your voice is a gift to yourself as well as a gift back to God based on the gift that He has given you. So, so we appreciate that. So, do yourself a favor. Please follow her. Please book her. Please utilize her services so she can see the lucrative life that Nina Scott told her about a long time ago, so she can be able to have what she needs. So, thank you for being on my podcast. Thank you all for streaming in and for watching. I appreciate you all sharing this content. Share it with somebody. It's not just about music, it's just about vocal health as a whole. So please share that. And whatever you do, you know what I say all the time, embrace your own unique design. I'll see you all next time for another episode of Uniquely Designed.